What's up YouTube, KS Gun Guy. Thanks for joining me today. If you like what you see here, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the videos. And there'll be plenty more coming your way very shortly. I'm excited about some upcoming reviews. I've got a Sig Sauer TAC Ops 1911 that's coming up, a Springfield Armory EMP 3-inch coming up, as well as a Springfield Armory Range Officer 9mm, and that'll be the full size. And then, of course, something that I think a lot of us are really excited about and eagerly waiting for, the CZ P10C. So be looking for those over the next month and a half, or maybe a little bit after, depending on how quickly I can get reviews out. Of course, always have to go to the range and spend a little time with the gun, get to know the gun, that sort of thing. And ammo, unfortunately, isn't free, so it can only do so much at one time. But anyway, so one other thing before we get started, I'm learning as I'm doing these videos that the gun community is absolutely amazing and extraordinarily supportive of each other, especially YouTube reviewers like me. And I want to give a special shout out to SPEC-OP 4. The guy has some amazing videos out there, has a lot of knowledge of a wide array of firearms, both handguns and rifles, as well as knife reviews and that sort of thing, a lot of gear, and just really cool guy. So I highly recommend you check his channel out. Some other channels I've been really paying a lot of attention to lately, and I've had some conversations back and forth with these guys. Big Johnson Guns and Gear, another really cool channel. 1776 or Bust is another good one. As I'm starting to dive into the 1911 arena a little bit, I've also been paying a lot of attention to the old 1911 channel, really cool channel. Honest Outlaw Review, it's another really cool one. K-Wood 23, I've been paying a lot of attention to his reviews as well, really cool guy. Parasidic Generation, another really cool channel. And then of course the bigger channels as well. One of my favorites, Hegshot 87, absolutely love that channel, and have had a little bit of back and forth with him as well. They do a great job and just really cool people. I'm sure, like you, I enjoy some of the really big channels like Hickok and Mr. Guns and Gear, Such, some of those channels, others as well, and they're a lot of fun. But it's also really exciting and fun to see some of the smaller channels and what they're doing, because it's really just about the experience and the opinion, and not a lot of sponsorship support or anything like that. So a lot of things. I'll put links to all these channels in the description, and try and kind of wheel in the names of those that I've mentioned, so you can see those in front of you. But I highly recommend you check those channels out, and like, subscribe, and share those as well. Really cool channels, and the more we have an opportunity to grow, the more reviews we can bring to you, and if nothing else, if it's not informative or entertaining, at least it's some fun gun porn, right? Everybody likes that. So thanks again for the support of this channel. Of course, it's been fun to see a lot of great growth. So enough of that silly stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the gun you have in front of you. So you may have noticed I've been on a little bit of a Walther kick. I just did a review on the Q5 Match, which is just an unbelievable firearm. I've been so impressed with that gun. It was a buddy of mine's gun. He let me do some shooting and testing with it, and it's just beautiful. I made the joke on the title of that video, Batman's gun. When I look at that gun, I think if Batman carried a gun, this would probably be it, because it's just a sexy looking gun. So also did, of course, the PPQ, the standard PPQ, which I have right here in front of you, and it's been a phenomenal firearm. It definitely is still a part of the collection. It's not going anywhere, and I've just been really excited to continue to shoot this and get to know it better through some night sights, some Meprolite night sights on it, and it's ready to go. So absolutely love it. Loved it so much that I decided to go out and grab a PPS M2, which you have in front of you. And this is actually not my first PPS M2. I had one maybe a year and a half or so ago. It was not long after they came out. And I liked it well enough, but I had some other options. I mean, I had a Shield and I had a Glock 43, and I kind of felt, well, this is a fine gun, but It's maybe nothing special. Well, I decided to revisit it. And what you have in front of you is, of course, a PPS M2. Let's make sure that it is unloaded. That's an unloaded magazine. And, of course, the gun is unloaded and will remain so for the rest of the video, of course. This is actually the LE version, or law enforcement version, if you can call it that. And really what that means is it has slightly upgraded sights. I'll wheel in some footage of this glowing at night. These phosphoresce, so they're not really night sights. They don't have tritium vials in them, but they do have kind of a glow-in-the-dark substance that if you charge them up with ambient light around you, sunlight or fake light, whatever, these will charge up and they will glow for a short amount of time. But at the range, they are very easy to pick up, so I don't necessarily care to change these out at this point in time. But the other thing that's different about the LE version is it comes with 3 magazines, and of course you can buy these magazines aftermarket as well, and it's kind of unusual the way they do this, and I'll dive a little further into why it's unusual. But it does come with a 6-round flat magazine, and then it also comes with these 2 guys right here, and they might look a little bit the same, but they're actually a little bit different. The one on the left, this guy right here, is actually a 7-round magazine and does add a little bit more to the contoured grip, and then it has an 8-round magazine as well. So I've been carrying this gun, and I actually am using these 2 magazines, and I'm using the 7-round in the gun and then the 8-round as a backup magazine. I like the flat magazine, and I suppose maybe in the summer, if I just have a t-shirt on or something, I would probably go with the flat magazine just to minimize any printing or anything like that. But right now, as it's winter time and you know, you've got extra clothes on, that sort of thing, I typically wear some sort of like a fleece vest or a pullover sweatshirt, whatever. I don't really care about the grip size, not a big deal, and these don't really add a lot to the height. So speaking of height, let's go ahead and get some specs out of the way on the PPS M2. And the length of this is going to be 6.3 inches. The height is going to be 4.4 inches with the flat magazine, 4.9 inches with the 7-round magazine, and 5.3 inches with the 8-round magazine. So with the 8-round magazine, it's going to get it a lot closer to a full-size grip there. The barrel on this is 3.18 inches, and the width is exactly an inch. I haven't tested this on the calipers quite yet. Maybe we'll do that in the video, depending on how long I ramble with this. But the weight on it is 21.1 ounces. The trigger pull is 6.1 pounds. I will test it with the Lyman gauge here in a little bit to see if that is indeed the case, at least for this one. It does have the same Walther finish that the others do. It's the Tennifer finish. And as I said, the mag capacity is 6, 7, and 8 with the LE version. I am not sure. I can't remember which magazines come with the other one. I know the flat, but I can't remember if it's an 8-round or a 7-round that comes with the other, the regular PPS M2. So leave a comment if you know what comes with that. So this is the second iteration of the PPS. There is another one. They actually call it the Classic. It is still available, and there are definitely some differences between the two. One of which being it doesn't have the contoured grip and these little kind of squigglies that Walther and HK have on them. It actually is just a box-style grip, and it actually has a changeable backstrap on the Classic version. It's not quite as contoured as well, so definitely some differences there. But I really wanted to go with the PPS M2. I like the contoured grip because it's reminiscent of the PPQ, and it fits my hand very well. So I'm very confident with this from a carry standpoint. It's done very, very well at the range. I'll definitely wheel in some shooting, probably wheel in a little bit as we go along as well. But it's been a delight to shoot, and it can definitely run a gun. So how else does this stack up? Why don't we, I've featured this shield, Smith & Wesson M&P shield, in another video as well, and this was my primary carry for a fair amount of time. If you've seen my shield versus Glock 43 video, in the very beginning I had some issues with this. I had the occasional light primer strike with it. That's since been worked out. I've got 1,000 rounds through this. In the last, I'd say probably 650, 700 rounds have been just fine. So I think perhaps there was a little bit of a break-in period. I also had some Apex internal parts. I actually removed all those parts and put the stock parts back in, with the exception of the firing pin block. It did lower and smooth out the trigger pull just a little bit, lower the weight of it, but not so much that you could breathe on it and it would go off, which is pretty much what the rest of those Apex internal parts did. But I've decided to carry the PPS M2, and in fact this might become my full-time carry rather than the shield. And I know there are a lot of shield fans out there. This is certainly a very popular gun, but I like alternatives, and I like having different options, and the Walther line has been so impressive. I just kind of feel like you know, maybe that's the way to go. But how does this stack up against the shield? The shield, from a length standpoint, is going to be, and the shield is behind, it's this gun right here, it's going to be 6.1 inches, so 2/10 of an inch shorter. Now, in terms of height, this is where the Walther has a little bit of an advantage if height is a consideration for you. With the flat base magazine and the flat in the shield, we're looking at 2/10 of an inch difference in favor of the Walther. Now, in terms of width, the shield is 0.95 inches and the Walther is 1 inch. From a sight standpoint, or just kind of looking at this, man, they are darn close to each other. They really are. There's not a lot of difference, and I think anything an inch or under really is great from a single stack perspective, for sure. And then with the full magazines, let's throw the big boy magazine, and let's throw the 8-round magazine in the shield. Shield again being in the back. So the Walther is going to stand just a tiny bit taller, maybe 1/10 of an inch, a little bit more than 1/10 of an inch taller than the shield. So there's your difference there. Let's go ahead and remove these guys, and again, unload it. I'm just going to get the shield out of the way. A couple of other things about the Walther. It's got, you know, your basic functionality on it. It is not set up for ambidextrous in terms of your slide release, but you can flip around the magazine release. So there's a little bit of ambidextrous quality to it, which is nice. It does take down just like any of the other Walthers. You do have to pull the trigger, of course, and again, it is unloaded in a safe direction. And we pull our trigger and then pull it back about 1/8 of an inch or so, and it does come apart. And it's the usual stuff that comes on really any of the striker firearms. Going to be your guide rod and spring, your barrel, and your slide. Very nice construction in here, and the slide rails. On the right-hand side, it is a full slide rail, which is really nice. It's not just hanging on by a couple of small metal tangs like the Glock 43, that sort of thing. On the other side, they are not full length, of course, just because of the trigger functionality in here, some of the trigger components, but still pretty beefy slide rails on that side. So really good construction on this, easy to take apart and easy to maintain, which is nice. And then we're back together. So from a trigger perspective, how does the trigger do? I would say that this is kind of an average trigger. It's nothing special. I will give the edge to the shield. It does have a little bit better trigger, and partially because I've done some work on it, and it's got a different. It has aftermarket parts in it, or at least a part. But it's the usual suspect. It does have the safety dingus or lever in the middle of the trigger, so that does have to be depressed, of course. And then we've got our uptake. It is very smooth. It is definitely smooth. I can feel a little bit of resistance, but there's no grit or anything like that in it. And then you do come to a defined wall, and then you've got a nice audible break. And then our reset. Now the reset is not terrifically audible. It's about maybe 3/10 of an inch away from the break itself. Do that one more time. There it is right there. So it's a clean reset, although it's maybe nothing special. But in my opinion, it's good enough. I've taken this to the range several times and shot it both slow, or at least slow for me. I get picked on a little bit because I shoot probably faster than I should. But then rapid follow-up shots as well. This gun does just fine. There's no confusion with the reset or anything like that, which is nice. So let's take a look and do a couple of quick pulls with the Lyman trigger gauge, because they're saying it's 6.1 pounds on that. Let's see if this one rings true. Okay, so that's 6 pounds, 2.8 ounces on that. Let's try that one more time. If you've seen some other videos with this, I don't really do like 5 or 10 pulls. I think that gets a little bit tedious and boring after a while, but let's at least do a couple. All right, so that's 8 pounds, 9.2 ounces. Let's do that one more time. Sometimes with these triggers with the safety dingus, you can get kind of a false pull there, and I think that may have been one. All right, there we go. So 5 pounds, 7.9 ounces, a little bit under the advertised 6.1 pounds. And I know if I did it a few more times, the average would probably come out pretty close to the 6.1 pounds that they advertise. But still a good trigger. Nothing wrong with it, and from a self-defense standpoint, it's perfectly fine. So some things I really like about this gun. I like the finish on it quite a bit. It's not too slick, and it does have serrations both on the front and the back. So if you're into doing press checks of any sort, you can definitely do that. But it's easy to manipulate, whether you do over the hand or you grab the gun from the back like this. You can also use, of course, the slide release, but really easy functionality. And then, of course, the ergonomics. I mean, the ergonomics on this, I'll put the 7-round magazine in here. The ergonomics on this are fantastic, or at least it fits my hand very well. I suppose if you have really, really big mitts on you, this might be a little bit small. You could, of course, throw some Talon grips on it if you really wanted to. But, again, from an ergonomic standpoint, it's very reminiscent of the PPQ and the Q5 match, and just very comfortable. Another one of the reasons why I've chosen to go with this over the Shield. I think it's a little bit more ergonomic, and it's very comfortable. And it's been shooting without any malfunctions from the very beginning, even with 1,000 rounds through the Shield. Since it had some bobbles in the beginning, that still makes me a little bit nervous about that. I know I probably shouldn't be, since it's had a good run, well over 500 rounds. I still, that sits in the back of my head. But anyway, so from a holster perspective, if you've seen some of my other videos, I'm a really big fan of Vetter holsters. I decided to try something a little bit different this time. Not because there's anything wrong with Vetter. I still think they're great holsters, and long term I would probably still go with a Vetter holster because I'm so used to them and they're great quality. But I thought I'd try something a little bit different, and I was actually on eBay and I found this. It's a Badger State holster, and you may be familiar with them, but I decided to try it out, and it's actually really good construction. It does have 2 retention screws on it. It has a nice belt clip on it. The only thing that I would ding about this holster is it does cover the gun on what I would consider the front. In other words, if I'm wearing it, my body is here. This does have an extra piece of Kydex that the Vetter holsters don't, and I like having the cutout. So I may Dremel this out and make it just the one side, so it does protect the gun against my skin if I just have a t-shirt on, something like that. But again, it's a good quality holster. It does just fine, and for $40, free shipping, that's a pretty good deal, and it fits the bill. So not too bad at all. So enough talking about the gun. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of footage at the range. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage at the range. So again, this is the Walther PPS M2. I've been thoroughly impressed with this gun, so much so that this is now my carry gun of choice. I know it doesn't have night sights on it. A lot of people really say night sights are pretty much a must for a carry gun. I agree and maybe disagree with that both. If it's got good quality sights on it, steel sights on it, that definitely is at least good enough for the time being. I may switch to night sights, not these phosphorescent type sights that the LE version comes with at some point, but for the time being, these definitely do the trick. For the money, the LE version's a great value because you do get the extra magazine. I think it's a little bit of a bummer that the flat magazine is only 6 rounds, except it does make it a little bit shorter than something like a Smith & Wesson Shield. So your mileage may vary on that, of course, but it's nice to have the options for sure. So overall, I think it's a fantastic gun. It's another great gun from Walther. If you haven't checked out the Walther line, I highly recommend you do that. I was not a big believer until I held the PPQ and shot the PPQ, and it certainly made me a believer. And then the Q5 match, one of the coolest guns I think I've ever seen. It's just awesome. I may at some point in time pick one up, but we'll just have to see how that goes. So, guys, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate that. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good one.